Welcome everybody. I'm so happy to see you. This is second double. We had some problem before, but I believe that extraterrestrials now not going to interrupt that special conversation between all of us. We have today Claudine Varese. I'm starting from left to right to introduce. Claudine Varese, she's from Switzerland and very good, my friend. We met in Peru. And for all this, maybe 5-6 years now, or maybe more, or maybe from previous life, previous existence, and came in these bodies, we knew each other, I believe. And then we have Michelle Marners. She's also a very good friend. She's a Native American from Navajo. She had also a very good story to tell us. We have Renato. He's participating with us. He's from Peru. He lives right now in California. He's participating from California. He is an expert for megaliths consciousness. He had a lot of big experiences and research. And also we have Lubomir Lambov. He's from Sofia, Bulgaria. So we have two representatives from Europe, one, and the others, all of us, we are from North America. Welcome everybody. We're going to start again from Renato because I want to make connection from from the ancient times, ancient civilizations. They are reporting with pictures in ceramic or any other megalithic structures they created, just to live in the world message that, or maybe that message is from our star friends who visiting us from thousand years. So Giacomo, what you learn from these megalithics? You've been in Egypt, you've been in Peru, many places. What you learn, and let's focus on the consciousness also, because not only according to Ray Hernandez, but everything is about consciousness, and looks like consciousness in the center, and all other phenomena, they have some connections. Renato, that's your turn.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. Hi, everybody. My name is Giacomo Renato Longaro. I'm Peruvian, a Peruvian American, live here in the Central Coast, California Central Coast for many years. I'm an author, researcher, independent. All my publications, books, or videos are made by myself, with my own sources. But anyway, yes, I have had an extraordinary experience in my life that, triggered me curiosity, mostly that, then research, and, find some clues or conclusions that I can share with. I don't have any answers. I think everybody, we are in the same path for evolution, progress, development, that increase our spirituality and consciousness at the very end. So yes, everything is related to consciousness. As we were talking before, there are the Hermetic laws, the laws of Hermes Trismegisto, or Hermetic laws. There are 7 laws. And the first law is everything is the mind, or everything is the consciousness. It doesn't say everything is love. It doesn't say love is everything. Love is gonna save us. Love is gonna help us. Look how we are right now. The problem is that we have a crisis in our consciousness. And what happened is we're getting divorced from these principles, ideas, or belief systems that Native Americans and all cultures have all around the world once upon a time. And that has to do with the Mother Earth, with Pachamama. Pacha, Earth, Mother, Mama, Mother Earth, named in different ways, in different cultures, but it prevails because it also have a relation with the astro theology, or a belief that as everything is above, everything is so below. We are connected and we live in systems within systems, because we are in a solar system, we are in a Milky Way, we belong to the universe. And there are certain sure laws, and there must be a supreme meta-consciousness or cosmic consciousness as far as we can understand. So one of the things that I find out through my research or readings is that there are different levels of consciousness. One of the people who have this courage, I would say, to classify level of consciousness was Jean Gebser, who was from Switzerland, if I'm not wrong. And he published different essays and books related to this subject. So for consciousness, we understand mind and spirit and the cultural profile that shapes our belief system, mostly from Western civilization. But if you go from Alaska to Patagonia in the Americas, you have the Native Americans, then you have Central America, and then you have South America. All of them have the same belief that Mother Earth is alive. There are 4 sections or 4 directions or 4 winds. There are a relation within the stars, the celestial bodies, and our presence here. There were many of people that have forgotten this knowledge. But we have to understand that this knowledge has been also through oral tradition, because there was a different way of communication with ourselves in ancient communities, in tribes, cultures, and even empires that developed within time. But we got divorced from this slowly and surely, and we are degrading ourselves because we're going against the female energy. And that's why we have so much, as I said before, aggression against women in the world. We're going against ourselves. And if we continue doing this way, we know what's going to happen. We don't have to be seers or prophets to see what's going on right now. But this is the way we have chosen. We have to pay the consequences, and we have to be more creative in a new era that we're living right now, that there are no maps, there are no roads, and that depends on the creativity, spirituality, and consciousness at the very end of the people of ourselves, to be redundant. So when we talk about cosmic presence of the earth, that we are in systems within systems, like the Matryoshkas dolls, the Russian dolls that you open, there's one, a tiny one at the very end. Everything is connected. And there must be intelligent beings living in this part of the system or in the galaxy, who knows where they're coming from. And then we also heard this story that they came through black holes or galactic portals and this and that. We exactly don't know how that works. Mm-hmm. We have no idea exactly how that works. Just to give you an example that I sometimes used to do in lectures and presentations is the iPhone theory. The iPhone theory, sorry to make a commercial, but it's one of the things, the smartphones. Mm-hmm. Let's say that all of us, we are going back in time. Let's imagine for a moment, we go back in time 500 years ago, and we land in somewhere in a Caribbean island in the Atlantic Ocean, and we're going to witness one of the changes in history when, let's say, Christopher Columbus arrived to the Americas. Let's say we are, hiding behind the bushes, sitting down in our chairs, drinking our sodas, and this and that. We have the premise not to interfere in everything, just to be witnesses. Okay, we're from the future. We're humans, and then we saw the three ships. We see Christopher Columbus, the priest, the corporation to the Corona Española, las tierras americanas, Dios nos lo permite, God allows us, and this and that. And then we realize all the changes that are going to happen, all the things that are going to happen really from North to South America, the continent. We realize many things because we know, because we came from the future. We're ourselves 500 years ago. So of all the group, I made a mistake. Let's say I made a mistake and I approached Christopher Columbus. You tell me, don't go, but I approached Christopher Columbus because I have to tell them things that he had to be aware what's going to happen next. But secretly, I recorded Christopher Columbus with my smartphone. I recorded on a video when he landed, when they make the ceremony of the incorporation to the Spanish crown and all this stuff. And he looked at me and he says, well, he's like human, but he's not. He's wearing different kind of dress, but it's different. He's like, where are you coming from? Who are you? So I'm the one who's going to ask the questions because I'm 500 years ahead of him. I'm the one who's calling the shots, not him. I am the one. I said, Christopher, come here. So what I'm going to say to Christopher, I showed him my smartphone and I showed him the video when he landed, whatever, touched the ground, all the ceremony and everything. He saw the seagulls flying around, the birds, the palm trees and everything. You know, I saw in the past what happened 30 minutes ago. He will flip out because he doesn't understand how I can share with this, as flat as this, a video that recreates everything. He will kneel down probably if he doesn't pass out and will say, "You're an angel. Where are you coming from?" And I say, "Wait a minute, Christopher." And then I have to think, I have to give him a narrative, a moral narrative, a story. Because Christopher Columbus, being intelligent and well-educated, he even didn't know what is plastic, credit card, a car, oil, nothing, no idea, submarine, nothing, no idea. So I explained him, you get very good, you have to be a good boy, this is gonna happen, you have to take care of the nature, you have to take care of your older brother that lives here, they're different, this and that, he believes in God and everything, you have to respect that, whatever. I had to give him a moral narrative because I'm the one calling the shots, I control the contact, okay? Right. But then he changed everything and flipped because he is with this Catholic religion rooted into his mind since childhood. That's what it is. The oldest institution in the world is the Vatican. That's why all American presidents go on bow in front of the Pope. It's simple. It's the oldest institution, that's what it is. But just want to finish this. I just said we came from 500 years ahead, right? Imagine a civilization that is auto-sustainable, have a different access to energy, and was capable to be self-sustainable, and is 1,000 years ahead of us, 2,000 years ahead of us. When they come to the planet, they say, if they came, or whatever, I believe more in paleo contact and other things exactly. Some visitations here and there, some contacts, encounters, all of them have the same frame. All of them have the same thing, but they say different kind of things that doesn't connect each contactee with another. It's very interesting, very weird to tell the truth. But once you show up and you have 1,000 years, 2,000 years ago, you have to call them the shots. And you're gonna tell them, look, humans, you have to make this, you have to be good. You have to make meditation, you have to be vegetarian because you know what's going on. You realize what's going on. And that's what happened only with us with 500 years difference. When you show him, Christopher Columbus, the smartphone. What if another civilization of 2,000 years ago, ahead of us, come in contact with us? There's also the presence of a meta power, because it's not a power, it's not a superpower, it's a meta power that have access to energy, come through black holes, portals, whatever, but we don't understand. They tell us, but we have no idea. No theoretical scientists like Michio Kaku or Stephen Hawking can explain exactly how it works. It's theory. And maybe it's an incomplete theory. So when they are here, and they're able to come to go back to their planet or system or whatever they live, the time, there was not a collapse in time and space. They don't see like a generation, people after the speed of light saying that, oh, my civilization died, I don't have planet, or they migrated, or, we're still living, but I'm from the 5 generations before. I don't have even my family or whatever the family from them it is. We don't have any idea about that, really. So when they are coming to us, they tell us what they want us to do for them because they're calling the shots. So a civilization at the same time, there have to be a level of ethical and moral values.
Are they? Are they? Are they?
Well, exactly. Are they? That's the point. Because we heard about abductions and all these traumatic experiences and everything. Right. And I have met John Mack in person. I have met Bob Cupping in person. I've been in Chelsea, New York, in his apartment when he tells us many things off the record. So this also had to do with the human consciousness, how I accept a different reality. Or when we remember, let's separate a little bit, this abduction of Betty and Barney Hill in 1961 at the beginning of the human rights. Exactly at the beginning of the human rights, there is a biracial couple living in 60 years ago in the Americas, when there was 130 million people of population inhabitants in the Americas. A very difficult life if you don't live in a remote or suburban area for a biracial couple, even though nowadays it is also sometimes.
Okay, thank you, Renato.
That's what it is. Thank you.
Yeah, let's move to Michelle now. Make and try to connect you your story, Amy, your story with Michelle is she has two families. One is Navajo, and I don't remember the other name of the other part of your family, but Native American. Michelle, what do you know about how Native Americans, especially Navajo, receiving that knowledge about like a medicine, traditional medicine practices for Native Americans? How do you know how they get this information?
Well, it's interesting. The other two tribes that I belong to, I'm half Navajo, Pawnee, and Chippewa. And I want to probably emphasize more on the Pawnee side. I belong to the band of the Skidee. The Skidee is the Wolf Clan. And the Wolf Clan, the Skidee were the only ones within the Pawnee tribe that held the star charts. And we look to the solar system of Pleiades. And we believe that our ancestors came from that solar system. They came down, taught the natives how to build their homes, how to live and sustain themselves in agriculture, how to do the ceremonies that represented that particular star system. So, you know, to what he was saying, based on, we have the knowledge of the all, is what I call the mind, the Hermetic philosophy called the all. And then, you know, his example of taking a piece of technology that we have today and going back 500 years to show Columbia that we have that on record. This is occurring today in our world. And yet we're stuck in that material world of, you know, scientifically trying to dispel all the knowledge that was given to us in a sort of in a hermetic form of philosophy to the all, meaning then they become the I am God. Am I correct to say that on that front? So I think with the traditions of the people, the Navajo, the Pawnee, the indigenous from South America, all the way up to Alaska, Canadian, we all have been given certain knowledges about our ancestral lines, whether it's below and above, you know. So right now, from what I understand, go ahead, Claudine, did you want to say something? I thought maybe you were.
Something came in, I'm sorry. Just gonna mute it.
Okay, no problem. So I think we have lost the spirit of this knowledge, how we interact with our past, present, and future. With the indigenous side of things, we've allowed this materialistic world to become so ingrained in us that we have forgot how to interact with Mother Earth, you know, spirit, the medicine, the knowledge, tobacco, which we practice to bless the four corners of the earth and give blessings. When you're asking about, you know, the medicine is just our interaction with nature, giving us the answers, how to solve us. Nature can solve a lot of the things that we need to heal from. You know, I'm currently working with the Ute tribe. I'm invited into learning their medicine in the moment, and it's a very sacred medicine. You know, and it's not something. It's a knowledge of our interaction with, you know, I like the way he said, it's not about the love. It's just a principle of interacting with the all. The all is you and I. We have this interconnective of consciousness. You know, we're having this conversation about consciousness, and not to take away from the sacredness, but we're all interconnected in whatever form.
Excuse me to interrupt you for a moment. You said that this ceremony, they have healing purposes. How
Yes.
that healing happening because of changing vibration in the area when during that ceremony, or because during the ceremony, the medicine practitioner of the Native American tribe, it's inviting the spirits from the elders from different tribes. Do you have explanation of that?
Yeah, well, frequency in Well, one of the things that's very important to ceremonies are the drumming, the frequency of sound. And sound has a vibrational tone that can help heal the body and get it to a frequency of whether getting out the negative pauses. While we're sweating, we're trying to release those negativity frequencies that we hold on to in our current lives, and we look to, raising our vibrations to a higher state. As simple as that I've said, I mean, there's something to those chants and songs that are performed inside the sweat itself. And there's some representations, whether they call it prayer to the creator. And so, not to reveal too much of the ceremonies, it is a very sacred ceremony. And you're communing, directly to whatever the creator, Mother Earth, whomever you wish to pray to. And those healing elements come from it. Mm-hmm. And the earth itself also has healing properties if you know how to tune into that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later about Blind Frog Ranch.
Okay. So everybody talking about consciousness, and the consciousness center of all these phenomena. But actually, do you know really what means consciousness? And I want to pass this to Claudine. What we don't know and what we need to know about consciousness, Claudine.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this conversation with these very dear friends that I have. Renato, that I've known for so many years, and you, Ivan. But I would like to speak in very simple terms, because I would like to follow up on what Renato said at the very beginning. The words like consciousness today are like thrown around, like everybody is talking about consciousness. But do we really know what consciousness is? Right? And we have a notion, we have an intellectual notion of what consciousness is. So here's the thing. As soon as we go into the factual, like facts and information, we're going out of direct experience. So if we want to experience and we want to understand what consciousness is, we have to start doing direct experience. So that's the difference. It's like in science, you have to be able to prove something when you experience it. Because if it's just pure, words or thoughts, it's not understandable. You have to be able to make the experience. So everything that we have on planet Earth that has been registered from older civilizations has been left to us in forms of symbols. And these symbols are universal. There's a part of us that can interpret when we know how to connect with the very source. Right? And this is connecting to what Michelle said with what Renato says, because in the universe, the whole cosmos or the universes, because we live in the multiverse, there's something that is bonds and binds everything. And it's not love, because love is the product of something else, which is the source of intelligence. And consciousness is, in other words, is the awareness. It's an intelligence that is awake and total and permanent and eternal, never changes. So it's endless. And the thing is that we are that. That is our true nature. We all are pure consciousness. But as we look at ourselves and we see, here's Ivan and here's Lubomir and there's Renato and Michelle and there's Claudine, we seem to be separated. But that is just what our senses receive. The sight, the hearing, the smelling, the touching. So we are oriented, because this is the way that we have been trained to figure out things through the senses. We have to go within, to retreat within, so that we can slowly remove the filters that prevent us from experiencing our true nature. Right? So it's like, let's say water. And Renato was saying, you know, the different dimensions. It's just like water. How many forms of water do we have? We have liquid water, we have ice, we have steam, we have clouds, but in the end, it's all water. And it's the same with consciousness, because consciousness can manifest and materialize into matter. So planet Earth has consciousness, is aware. Nature is aware, the plants are aware, animals are aware, our cells in our body are aware, have intelligence. The universe, everything is beating to one intelligence. It just expresses itself from the source out to the manifested world. So this world is not necessarily created, it's manifested from a source. So that is as far as I want to talk about consciousness, because we can go deeper into this. But in reality, it's very simple. You don't need big education or a lot of words or a lot of, it's just getting in touch with your own source and listening within, and then you can experience your own awareness. Everybody has that.
How to wake up?
How to wake up from what?
For consciousness.
For consciousness, well, that depends, because
or wearing.
This world is a form of consciousness. It's not a different consciousness. It's a state of awareness. It's a state of consciousness, which is dense matter, a material world. We're in a 3D world, right? So what we have to do is just slow down, because this is it's a lot of noise. There's a lot of colors and distractions. So we have to do a work that is going within, seeking the silence within. And then we can start to experience a different level of what awareness is, because we can be aware when we are awake. We are aware when we're dreaming, because we know that we're dreaming. And we're even aware when we're sleeping in deep sleep, because how do we know when we wake up that we did a good sleep? So there is an underlying awareness that is much subtler, much finer than even the mental intellectual part of the thinking mind, the brain, that part of the mind that does this thinking, remembering, selecting, determining process. There's something that is always there, and that is that fine intelligence that is conscious and is our essence of who we really are.
It's very interesting.
It isn't, because we can all experience it. It doesn't take anything special other than the will to listen within and seek the silence and the looking within, right? And the turning around.
Yeah.
And for that, we have practices. There's so many forms of meditation nowadays that are accessible. You know, everybody that wants to wake up can wake up. There's never been in all of history any better time, with all the challenges that we have at the moment on a global scale. There has never been more opportunities for a person to wake up if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to want to.
Yeah.
We have to want to do the work within. And then we can start to understand everything, because the minute that we connect with our own source, we're going to start connecting with the source of intelligence, of the Pleiades, of, you know, the very advanced extraterrestrials for us in our we think we're very advanced, but we're still very primitive on planet Earth, right? Compared to these foreign intelligence or non-terrestrial intelligences that are coming from so many different dimensions and places. So we can connect, but we have to connect from within, not from without, because within we are the same. We're made of the same.
Mm-hmm. Lubo, he's a very good friend. I met him last year, September, when I was in Bulgaria. He lives in Sofia, Bulgaria. He's an attorney, very smart man. He's supporting this future conference which is going to happen in Bulgaria. Also, he has a channel in YouTube, and he engaged mostly with the consciousness and giving advices to people how to be better people. My question for Lubo is, what is your experience about consciousness and that connection with the ancient civilizations and the star people?
First, thank you, Ivan, for the invitation. It's just amazing how we all gathered here. I didn't even know that this conversation, that this collective event is going to happen. What happened is I was in the mountains the whole day and I returned home. Saw this message from Ivan who was saying, let's talk Saturday or Sunday. And I was like, okay, I'm here. And he responded, we're going to have that great Zoom conversation with different people in English. And I was like, okay, count me in. So he added me to the conversation. So I'm really, really grateful for being here with so many experienced speakers. And everything that you were saying was actually resonating with me really much. We are here in the eastern part of Europe. There's this large conflict now happening here, really close to us. And everything in the news and everything in our politics is revolving around this topic and revolving around this thing. And there are quite little people, talking about consciousness and talking about some topics that are different than war, politics, energy, and stuff like that. So thank you once again for inviting me, Ivan. What I can say about consciousness is that I used to study law. Now I'm practicing law. I'm an attorney here in Bulgaria, and maybe I want to see how the laws we create as humans, as a society, connect with the laws of the universe. That's like my field of interest. I cannot deem myself a researcher or something, but this is, let's say, my field of interest of research. And all of the things that each of you said resonated with me because, as Renato said, yeah, we have, I think, a really low amount of female energy nowadays, and it is not, it's not. It is explained in the way that the great leaders now, like the USA leader and the Russia leader, the leaders of the great countries are men, and they're above 70 years of age. So I believe that we need to have this reset of more female political leaders. Even the female political leaders bear a lot of masculine energy. That's what I think. If you see, for example, Angela Merkel, the former leader of Germany, or now Ursula von der Leyen, who is the European leader, you see these females carrying a lot of masculine energy. So I think that we really need more female energy of people creating the laws of our society, and more tuning in of these laws with the laws of the universe, because we're studying the cases where people break the law, actually. So we're dealing with some abnormalities inside of the social relationships. But what we need are people who are younger and people who bear more female energy to reset those laws, because what is happening now obviously shows us that these laws which were governing us so far are not working. If a country can invade another country and then kill civilians and so on and so forth, these laws are not working. Another thing, yeah, I believe we need to, just like Michelle said, connect more to the to nature. These laws should be also representative of our connection with nature, because we're really far from nature nowadays. All we want from nature is, fossil fuels, like energy sources, and that we fight over. And I believe that we need to find new sources of energy, which make us way more independent, and such sources of energy that we don't need to fight for. Like this is, I think, the main source of conflict, even the conflict happening right now. And what Claudine said while actually Michelle was talking, the thing that popped up in my mind was that consciousness is not easily explained. We cannot explain consciousness, because when we start explaining consciousness, we actually have this subjective view. We can only word our subjective view on consciousness. When we say, and there's another thing that popped in my mind, when we say God is or universe is something, we already, whatever we put next to is already limits universe and consciousness and God, because it's unlimited by definition. So these are my interests, the laws of the universe, the laws of society, how these two aspects can actually align better. And another thing that's very interesting to me nowadays is parallel universes, and how parallel universes literally are starting to overlap. And I believe that there's going to be that moment when one of the layers is going to be peeled off. I mean, I don't know how to explain this, but you know, people that continue to stick to drama, to conflict, to all these 3D aspects of the consciousness are just going to separate from people that are speaking about the nature, high energy consciousness, etc., etc. Because this type of separation is really, really big right now, and it's this discrepancy is growing. So this is what I believe will happen, and this will happen through overlapping of different parallel realities, where like right now, each of us individually and collectively, we're boarding trains of realities of energy. And when we board that train, we're going to leave the station, and we're going to be with some people in our train, and we're going to head into a direction. And right now is the moment where we need to choose which direction we're going with, which train we're boarding. And we have, I believe, little time to decide, because energies are becoming way more polarized right now, as we can see with this conflict happening here in Eastern Europe. These are the thoughts that are within my mind as an example of this overlapping of parallel universes. I can give a very recent case in the university I teach. I'm an assistant professor in law here in Sofia University. And as I was leaving the university, literally I saw a student coming. We were like in this corridor, and we were alone, so I saw him really well. And after that, when I turned the corner, I saw him again, and I was like, oh my god, what is happening? You know, there is no way this student could have made a U-turn or something. I believe these were two parallel versions of one and the same person, or parallel versions of me, just walking through this like a glitch of the matrix. And this was a very powerful proof to me of what I'm saying right now, and the path that I'm walking on. And so through my YouTube channel, I just try to educate people here in Bulgaria about these things, because there are quite a few people talking about this here. So I just try to tell these stories to these people.
Thank you, Lubo. Renato, what we can learn from these megalithic structures? It's very interesting for me, because lately I learned about this huge megalithic structure nearby Lake Titicaca, and I watched a story from one American who was able to open a portal and go in. So if the ancient civilization people or star people create that for us, they create for a reason. What do you know about this? What we can learn from these megalithic structures?
I think you're talking about the Aramumuru Gateway or portal.
Yes.
Or known as Hayumarca.
Yes.
Hayumarca. It is, you know, when they're initially like 30 years ago, with a good friend of mine, Jorge Luis Delgado, who showed me that area for the very first time. And according to the information, the local culture that was settled in pre-Columbian times was the Lupaca, L-U-P-A-C-A, Lupaca culture. but nothing is attributed to that culture who, according to some archaeologists or historians, could have been built by the Lupaca culture, the Amaro Muru doorway, the Amaro Ohayu Marca. Yes, there is a gate, and when you kneel down, exactly your front goes in between your eyes, like, you know, related to the third eye or something like that. And it's very peaceful, very beautiful. There is a place for shamanic ceremonies. It's a powerful place. We call it Waka, Huaca, which is power place and others names, energy spots or whatever we want, sacred places, etc. So what happened is that each person have their own experience based in their own beliefs. I cannot say, no one can say exactly. There's no oral tradition. And there is an oral tradition telling us that an angel or celestial being came from the heavens and taught them, or a being of light landed, or some sort of that. There's none in the Andes. And they've been researching this for many long time. So I cannot say it was built by extraterrestrials. I don't go with that theory so easy. We have to think that there was human intelligence, human creativity from ancient times that were able and capable to access information perhaps in different ways, you know, through consciousness, or there was some genius also that can appear, you know, every generation was able to build the Amaro Muru doorway as other megalithic constructions around the area on the Titicaca Lake. Nearby is Pumapunku, is Tiahuanaco, because in that time didn't exist Bolivia as a country, or Peru or Chile or Argentina or Brazil as a country. It was a mix, like in North America, of different nations, cultures, etc., as we know it. So, you know, in Pumapunku, in that area, in Tiahuanaco, many of the gates or portals are monolithic. It's one piece of huge stone, or granite or limestone, or sometimes sandstone. None of them are finished. None of them are finished. That means something happened that made the constructors or architects to abandon the piece of art, because it's beautifully carved. They have no parallel in any Andean culture. There is no replica of that kind of architecture in other areas in the pre-Columbian Americas, in the Americas in general. So something happened years ago. 1,000, 1,100 or 1,200 years ago, there was the sudden sunk or level of the Titicaca Lake for 8 meters. The Tiahuanaco culture disappeared, whoever was living in that time.
Or maybe move.
We think, yes, it just started, the water level started to drop. And the way of life, the ecosystem, everything changed. Around 1,100 to 1,200. Tiahuanaco is very ancient, 2,000 plus years, from the beginning, the intermediate to the latter parts of the Tiahuanaco culture. But just to remark this information is that we see the Sun Gate in Tiahuanaco, very, very famous, the portal Sun Gate with the god or icon, you know, of a male carrying 2 staff of power and wing, you know, 16 wing, 16 around in each side, 16 wings, you know, looking from left to right or right to left to this god per se, you know. But the engraves of the winged men around the frieze, the frontal part, upper frontal part, are done with a very poor quality of craftsmanship. Does not compare with the center. That means that if you go to a place which you consider your area, your culture, that you built that, and someone else comes to finish your work, that means you were already gone. It's like someone trying to finish the construction of your house. The owner is gone. So someone else show up, mimic that in a very poor quality with very poor instruments in comparison with others ones that has not been yet found by the archaeology, said by archaeological experts and architects. The kind of tool used is unknown, not shown or appear in any museum in Bolivia, Peru, or in the world, I'd say. But that means also that it's easy, in my opinion, it's easy to say the extraterrestrials have done it. Yeah. The extraterrestrials build Sacsayhuamán or Nazca or everything. I don't think so. We can talk about paleo contact. We can see about medieval art of flying saucers and everything. But if there is an oral tradition, a written record from any other cronista or Spanish chronicles that visited the area, that didn't know between each other, they didn't exchange information between each other in that time, or the first expeditionaries, scientific groups that started in the 1840s or 1860s in the new Republic of Peru, they were mostly German, French, and British. None of them, all of them asked, who built this? There was our ancestors. There's no relation to extraterrestrial whatsoever. So I think it's more modern narrative to fill out and sell the people what they want to listen.
I mean, they've been definitely they've been built for some reason, maybe to send message to us, to future generations of that planet. I mean, Nazca lines, I flew on the top of them, and I was amazed what I saw. A lot of questions. When I was last time in Peru, I met with Professor Roger Zuniga. He's a professor from Ica University in Peru. And we talked not only about these mummies, if you know about that discovery in Peru, but we talk also about what archaeologists so far they found in Peru. So we talk also about this huge stones, I mean, like 9 tons or 70 tons stones, and they was moved some way, how they was moved. And Professor Zuniga said, maybe they knew how to control the gravity in the planet to move all these blocks from one place to another place. I was, the first time when I was in Peru, I visited, what was the name? Between Cusco and Machu Picchu. Anyway, I forgot. Well, Tantango. Yeah. And there's a temple of the sun on the hill. And I saw huge blocks. By the way, there was a different color from all other stones I saw in the area. And I said, probably this huge, and they was cut completely flat with 90-degree. I think that they was brought from somewhere, and how they brought it. Probably the ancient people, they had the knowledge how to to manipulate the gravity of the earth to move all this stuff. Now, I don't want to, I mean, I would like to start that conversation. So any of you, if you want to say something, just show up and we can talk. Like,
I will add something because
I think Renato has something to tell you about that.
Okay.
It's part of his research.
You communicate telepathy with each other. I see.
We do actually.
My first book, it was in 1992, The Message of the Andes. My second book was published independently by the book books. In 2005, it is, I will say, into English, Enigmas of the Inca Empire, The Forgotten Gods. And then I've been following since 2004 the research of French scientist Joseph Davidovits, the father of modern geopolymer, which is a super concrete. There is a very rich oral tradition in the Andes that you can listen right now with witnesses, even older and even younger, that talk about, quote, don't take me exactly word by word, of a plant or plants capable to melt rocks or to make malleable the surface of the stones. From the quarry of Ollantaytambo, which is in the other side of the valley, there are already, stones, slabs, and columns that in a lower scale of sizes that were able to go to the zigzag on the side of the Ollantaytambo, zigzag road, capable to do that, take the curve, turn around, and push. Because the stones that you're talking about, the Temple of the Sun, is at least to 30 to 40 tons, which is impossible even by architects and engineers to pull it up from the other side of the valley, cross the river, go up to the mountain, turn. Each turn is impossible. The size is megalithic. It's impossible. And perfectly fit each other by chisels of copper and bronze tools, which is proven by Egyptologists that the chisels of copper and bronze only last 12 times when you hammer them. 12 times, and then you have to dispose that, and then you have to reject that, or you have to melt it again. So you have a huge logistic for something which is not is worthless to use. So the apply of a natural rock, a rock that you can cut more rustic, in a more rustic way, in a more imperfect way, let's say, and then you apply a concrete made by several organic and inorganic materials that were able to found that formula, and then you plaster into the rock, you let it cut it, and then you use tools, maybe iron that was used with a religious purpose, because now we can buy any tool from Home Depot, that we throw it in the toolbox because we got plenty. In that time, the production maybe was very minimum and very specialized, and you have to bring it to the supervisor, to the architect once you finish, the same way you receive it. So you have all these flat surfaces that fit perfectly because it's the concrete. When you push, and you see in any construction, any pavement, in any building, you can spread that, let's say, like a batter, and it will fit perfect once the other is already dry. That's what it is happening. And there's a very good argument through these last decades about that. But Joseph Davidovich found that original formula while he was visiting Egypt. That's the reason I went to Egypt. I went to the Temple Valley, which is the entrance to the Sphinx. I went to the King's Chamber, to some pyramids and other places. It is exactly the same. It is exactly the same. There is no ornaments. There is a minimalistic architecture, flat. The stones are glue. You being in Coricancha Temple, I can take you another tour and show you things that you haven't seen. When I can show you even this partially broken, perfect cutted fit a stone of Andean granite that you're gonna tell me is cut by bronze and copper chisels? It's impossible, period. It's against the law, the physics of law. But I can show you it's partially destroyed by the Spaniards in a time to build the Santo Domingo Church, because that's what is so well preserved, because it's protected by the church, by the convent inside. It is broken, but it's still broken inside. The stones are glue. And I can show you some areas of the Venus Temple behind, behind the Venus Temple, that you can see the gardens and the Sol Avenue, the traffic in the city, because it's downtown Cusco. They have scratches and marks that has to be when the stones were in a semi-solid state. I can take you, Ollantaytambo is my favorite, because in Ollantaytambo, I can take you to a place where you can see millimeter cuts done in Andean granite in a rhomboid pattern made like it melt the stone. I can show you those places. Even though I found another place that it looks like 4 stones built each other, and it's just someone just to make this trick, visual trick. It just one huge stone slab, it just make this traces look like 4 blocks, but it's only one. When you look around,
Renato,
it's just a full block. Yes.
Renato, just to add it up as a parenthesis, you might want to share some of the links to your videos, because you have made so many videos of pictures where you're taking images of these places and you're showing the scratch and everything you have just described.
Thank you. There
you go.
And this is me. I don't even recognize myself. without gray hair.
Do you have this in English? Or we need to learn Spanish?
We're going to have to translate it for Renato.
We have to translate it because these are already sold out.
Yeah.
Many years ago. But anyway, yes, my channel is under my first name, Giacomo, Giacomo, Giacomo Longaro. Just type in and you can see all my research done since the very beginning.
For just in case, can you type it in the text chat area? Yeah. We talked with Claudine once, and she said, you saw what you saw in Peru, but the real story is in the jungle. Claudine?
What is in the jungle? What is in the jungle?
You said, when we talk to each other, you said you saw stuff in Peru, but actually the real stuff from Peru is in the jungle.
Well, I was not referring so much to the archaeology or the megaliths, is so much that the wisdom of the natives of the green forest, or from the jungle, the rainforest, has been more preserved because the Spaniards, when they came to South America, they were unable to penetrate the rainforest. So it was much easier for them to conquer the
coast and the Andes
and the cultures in the Andes that were accessible, and they were having troubles between them anyway. So they were in a vulnerable time, and that's why the conquistadores were able to take over. But they were unable to penetrate the green forest or the rainforest. So the wisdom of the native tribes, you can see the same in Brazil, or all the countries in the world where they're still natives. They have preserved their wisdom because they have an oral tradition that was never written down. It was always passed from master to student, from student to his students, traditionally. Yeah. And yes, the wisdom of the natives is something really to consider. But then we go into the field of consciousness and healing and all these powers that we have, which are different subjects, although they're telling the same story, right? One tells it orally and the other one tells it in stone, because the stones are telling us a story as well.
Michelle, we have very interesting places in Utah. And one of them is just was discovered late, probably, I don't know exactly when, maybe before 2, 3, 4 years. It's a Blind Frog Ranch. It's a very interesting story. Michelle spent more time over there. I was only one time with only one experience, but I'll remember that for all my life. So Michelle, can you share what you can share from Blind Frog Ranch? Your experience.
Well, I have been in the Uinta Basin for the last 5.5, 6 years, coming up on the 6th year. And what's really interesting, I've been studying the Uinta Basin for about that period. I was on another project, which is on the History Channel. I will not give the name, but you guys kind of get my drift. We have 2 ranches within that vicinity. I was on both projects. One happened to be negative. We're talking about consciousness and energy flow here. One was particularly negative, and then when I found Blind Frog Ranch, it was particularly positive. I'm going to go a little bit scientific. Dr. Segala was on the first season of Skinwalker Ranch, and then he, because of the pandemic, walked away from the project. He had asked me if we could do a scientific study because I found no answers as to why I was getting radiation exposure when I was on another project in the area. But when I found myself on Blind Frog Ranch, I was getting positive. I was starting to heal. So this goes back to that consciousness healing aspect of it. There are places on the earth that have these positive, I want to say ionic fields or electromagnetic fields that possibly could be interacting with our organic body mass here. The negative will give us a bunch of stuff that's not very positive. We get physical pains, we get physical radiation burns, whatever you want to call it. The other thing is Blind Frog seems to have some healing waters there. We put language to terms of things we don't quite understand, and we call them new agey. We need language in order for our minds to understand what we're dealing with. And so Dr. Segal and I decided to investigate the areas of electromagnetic fields and how they occur in these ley lines along the longitudinal, latitudinal, areas, and what causes these anomalies in nature. And once in a while, nature will spin out something completely. There's Ivan showing a photo of his visit.
Yeah, I'm showing me from this powerful lake or small lake.
Yeah. So what was really interesting, having gotten to know the owner of the ranch, Dwayne Ollinger. Dwayne has had some pretty prolific, interesting stories that have occurred on the ranch, all the way from having UAPs showing up, interacting with some of his partners who are digging for the lost Aztecan gold there, the Rhodes mine myths, so on and so forth. And they've turned it into the show, and the show is called The Mystery of Blind Frog Ranch. While I was there, I was the first participant. I had an eye condition. I was starting to get a cataract starting to happen to my eye, and I went into those waters that Ivan showed you and went swimming on a hot day, and then went into another field that Dwayne showed us. And I walked away and I could see in that eye. And to this day, I can still see in that eye. And I have medical evidence that there's no cataract there. So whether that's for you. What's that?
Good for you.
Yeah, good for me. Good for us. Yeah. So we started hearing more stories about people who would visit the ranch. Not to get conspiracy theoried, or there's something to those fields, that we can, our bodies through nature, consciousness, interacting with the environment sometimes can be a healing aspect. And so we decided to study some participants who were willing to come in and participate in our study. And what we're finding is the link to DNA, and DNA meaning Native American bloodlines seem to be the ones that can see some of these transcendent experiences. I am an experiencer. I've had entities visit, so on and so forth, not to get off subject here about consciousness, but I think when we're vibrating at a frequency, whether it's through meditation methods or something, I think we interact with the unknown worlds, extraterrestrial worlds, without sounding too new agey. But I think we're finding that those bloodlines, somehow our indigenous bloodlines, have a special connection to extraterrestrial foundations out in the universe.
Thank you, Michelle. You can interact with each other to make some conversation. I don't want to be like someone who's going to ask questions.
So Ivan, if you let me ask a question to all of you, maybe. How do you explain these monoliths or these types of really complex architecture appearing in different parts of the world, in different ages even? Like you mentioned Peru, you mentioned Egypt. There are such structures also in China. There are some structures in the UK, like the Stonehenge, for example. How do you explain this? Is it a coincidence? Because it couldn't be a coincidence. Such types of architecture appearing all over the world and with no obvious connection between them.
Probably you mean also Stonehenge in England.
Yeah.
And not only. In Croatia, I think, west of Bulgaria, one archaeologist says that he found a pyramid, huge pyramid. I don't know if this is possible or not.
Yeah, there are structures here also in Bosnia,
Bosnia,
in the Balkan areas. Yeah. So, what do you think about this? Is it like a landmark of an ancient civilization which was like roaming the globe, or was it like different timelines, different even histories? Because we know that there is a official history about our development as a civilization, we as humans, but there are also a lot of plot holes, let's say, in this history. So could it be different parallel histories overlapping, or different marks from civilizations? What do you think? What's your opinion, all of you? I would like to hear.
Okay, let me go first. I want to show you this is inside the Convento de Santo Domingo convent, built by the Dominicans in 1560, and they cover in purpose with the colonial plaster these walls. In 1950, on May 1950, there was a 7.5 earthquake in Cusco that partially destroyed the convent and the colonial plaster that was covering these Inca walls. And after that, after a couple of years of reconstruction, many authorities and archaeologists said it has to be open to the public because it was hidden and that was whole well preserved. So when I show you, it's just one section of the Coricancha temple. You'll see on the background, the colonial architecture is all mixed, but this partially destroyed facade of Andean granite with the typical, flat glue stones, and how even though it is partially destroyed, inside it still is, glued to each other.
Yeah, it's perfectly straight. By the way, exactly like this, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Giacomo, exactly the same thing I saw in Bulgaria personally in one area. Michelle she knows what I'm talking about, with a group of stones with specific order, like something like a circle. I saw the stones like they was cut exactly, you saw, like, looks like they cut like laser, I don't know what, like, like that.
So the thing is that this you can find exactly also in Egypt, and it's a dry super concrete. This is a dry super concrete. They didn't have any exact measure, like a standard measure like we know that we make bricks right now. It was accommodated to the circumstances and the needs of the construction. So that's why this is the same, this is the secret. And the archaeologists, some Peruvian archaeologists know about it, but they don't have the answer. And if you're an archaeologist paid by the government, you cannot go with this theory. But in 2012, a group of Russian geologists visited Sacsayhuaman, the so-called fortress, which is in the top of the mountain, 30 minutes from downtown Cusco. And there are 350 tons stone made of limestone. It's huge. Why do you have megalithic construction of that site in the whole Americas? There's none in other part of the Americas. The concept where it came from is older than the Incas. They're talking about the Quilque culture. I won't say the word, I won't spell it. The Quilque culture. 200 years, 2 centuries before the Incas, it was already there. And there are ethno-historians that Maria Rostoborowski de Diaz-Canseco, a famous, she passed away a couple of years ago, saying that according to her research and records, also approved by other historians and archaeologists, the Incas already, when they settled in Cusco, found those buildings and they restored and rebuilt. So there's more things to do. And as he was saying, Lubomir was saying, excuse me, your name if I pronounce it wrong. Lubomir was saying, why it is coming from different parts? Because there was in a certain period of time before a cosmic event that blown away part of the planet, melt the ice sheet, in different parts of the world, create a deluge in a nuclear winter that took some massive land that used to be in the Pacific Ocean and in the Atlantic Ocean. That part that we call very, Atlantis or Lemuria, there was a superb civilization, not with magical powers, I think. They were humans like us, but they were good seafarers. They were good navigators. They have a fleet that went everywhere.
An advanced global civilization.
An advanced global civilization. And also the Piri's Rise map, what is not shown to the public anymore, which is a copy of another copy. It shows part of the Atlantic, South American Atlantic Ocean with some geographical spots that only could have been made 12,000 years ago, in the last glaciation, the last glass age. So we are talking about a gap, as you said, a gap in history that is not shown to us because we have a Western, very strong influence, religious work that many of these temples were built by the devil, built by evil spirits. And that's what they have in all temples, in all Americas. I live here in California, 30 minutes up north is San Luis Obispo. And you have the Church of San Luis Obispo, downtown church built in 1721 and everything. And I asked a local historian, the Chumash tribe used to live in this area still, but in that time, the Chumash tribe was the one living in this area. Is there a Chumash archaeological ruins underneath the church? How do you know that? It happens everywhere in Latin America. A simple question. It's common sense. I said, I know. They impose just to destroy the other thing. It's common, But that point is very tricky. It's a very rich field to research. You can find some clues here and there. I'm not the only one doing this. There are other people doing research for years as well. But the clues, due to the advance of technology, due to the advance of use of satellite imagery, is telling us that there was more constructions also in the Amazon, in the rainforest between Peru and Brazil. Also, there was more like north of Cuba, there is a Sanko temple there that was found in 2010 by Paulina Zelitsky. She's a Canadian Polish oceanographer. She mapped that, but now because it's in Cuba's territory, nobody can go there. The National Geographic make a little tiny documentary, but they don't go further. They don't want to go further because it's
political. It's too political.
It's political. It's a hot potato. It's a hot stone.
Yeah.
So finally, to finish this, yes, it seems to me that there was a group of people, because just to finish an anecdote, I was in the Bali temple, the temple similar to Cusco, to the architecture, before you enter to these things. And I was wearing a t-shirt, this is Peru, And there was an Egyptian tour guide, an Egyptologist, touring a group of German tourists. He saw me, and we exchanged some words, and I asked him, what do you think about this? I'm Peruvian, it's very similar to Peru. And he said, the only theory I can tell you that in ancient times, I don't know when, with the Egyptians, or whoever built these areas, arrived into South America and exchanged information and technology, transfer information and technology. And it organically developed in the Andes because it's 3,500 meters above sea level. It's not a desert like Egypt. It's different, gotta be organic, gotta be different according to the needs of the geography and the people's needs. So it's a very rich, and you can find more information in English and mostly in Spanish, but there are some videos in English about my trip to Easter Island as well, and others in Peru and in Egypt.
So this lost civilization, they lost because they destroyed itself from the technology they got, or they just moved to another dimension, another parallel world?
No. But this is the problem with the esoteric folklore, what I call New Age folklore, esoteric folklore. The Atlantis have this wisdom, and they have this quartz in this temple that Poseidon, and it is all narratives. These are all stories to sell the people who wants to escape from reality. Right now, it's proven by many scientists that there was a meteorite or asteroid that hit Northern Europe, which is right now Iceland, and it melts even the ice sheet that was even what is now New York. New York was over 1 mile of ice, thick ice, and it started to melt and change the sea currents and everything. And all these cities on the coastline were practically wiped out in a matter of time. Even if you read, look, it's very interesting because you read autobiography, Claudine should know about this also, autobiography of a yogi, of Paramahansa Yogananda. There is a part that the master, the guru of Paramahansa Yogananda says, you should know that there was a place they called Atlantis and it would disappear overnight with, he says, 92, 96 million inhabitants. He didn't say the number. Is he lying? No, that effect only can happen if there is sun heat from outside, a cosmic event, boom. And it translated into the deluge, into the survivors in different areas of the world with the technique of the scarce resources that they have to build and continue with life. That's why you have the same or similar technique, almost similar, into different parts of the world that you cannot explain with modern technology because they were reducts or they were part of all this, civilization. But there are more research right now in the mid-Atlantic Ocean. They have shown with excavations on the floor of the ocean that they found certain stones that only can be present on the surface, not in the bottom of the ocean. And it went all upside down. That is a dramatic tectonic change. But that's another part of another really lecture or information. So I just want to leave it like that.
Yeah.
And also, we have some of the same things up in the Uinta Basin. 286,000 years ago, there was a cataclysmic event that surged up a lot of the mountains in that area and exposed the Jurassic period. We had a lot of dinosaur bones there. And it was really interesting. A lot of the architecture are the language I came across, the Sumerian language that depicts, and some of the petroglyphs depict some of the history of the Native Americans in that area. And there are temple findings there. There are blocks that were monolithic and constructed about the same time period as we were asked that question. And the language of that time was Sumerian. Well, where did the Ute Indians come across the Sumerian culture? And so when I got it analyzed, it took 5 linguists, and they couldn't, it was a wraparound language, and they couldn't discern the 2 connecting letters to find out what that message was. So we often think that, the symbols that Claudine was talking about, maybe there is an energetic coding to those symbols that were being taught. And the architect of that time was being utilized with their modern technology of mixing alloys, your polymers, as you're talking about. I met a man and I interviewed him while I was in Uinta Basin for a book we're writing. He was talking about, as a boy, he was visited from higher beings and, extraterrestrial beings, and given this mathematical mind. And he came up with a polymer with mixed alloys. As you know, certain alloys have to be at certain varying temperatures. These particular metal alloys were mixed at the right temperature. So you're able to mix these 2 alloys to create a superconductive metal. And now the United States is using for the military in their fuselages with their airplanes and such, as we've uncovered some of that technology. And I have the mathematics, but apparently this came from a knowledge from a guy who was just a simple farm boy living up in the Uinta Basin. He's now gone, but he left with me some of the mathematics. So it's similar that we have these technologies today. So like you were saying, using the Columbus, narrative, if somebody were to investigate our timeline, they would find all these particular technologies as well and make assumptions. And I'm very fascinated by your polymer story because, if there's certain plants and natures that combined certain architectural and they figured it out, it's organic, like to what you were saying earlier. And but we have come across today where people are using language to describe what we don't understand when it's all there for us to understand in nature. The higher levels of consciousness is knowledge.
I wanted to add to something that you're saying about what you mentioned at the beginning, Michelle, about the effect of sound, right? Mm-hmm. And we can trace this information back to the Vedas, that are basically the oldest, not scriptures, but tradition on our planet, which later was written, because at the beginning the Vedas were not written. They were not a scripture. They were an oral tradition that came from very, very ancient times. But in the Vedas is explained the possible mechanisms of the effect of vibration on humans. So that's where the mantras come in. So at some point it becomes, in time, it degenerates and it becomes, like more belief systems, or it becomes religious, when at some point in the past, it was totally scientific. And today the scientists are starting to prove again that the sound vibration can change the structure on a cellular level. And that's what actually mantras do, because these mantras have a very source vibration that can change our inner structure on a cellular level. And that's why we can also create this transformation on a personal level. So these are all conversations that we could just expand and go on and on, because maybe we can have this on another time. But everything that you have mentioned and we have talked this afternoon or this morning connects, because it's all about the same.
Do you have
super period of time, right? We on a global scale, everybody's like so depressed, and it's like, people, it's such an opportunity to wake up. Make the best of your time. Use it, because there's so many opportunities to wake up. And all we need to do is just to realize that we can start to make changes, right? That's what we want to.
I would like to add something what Claudine just said, and it is that there are two words. I don't speak Quechua. It's the second official language in Peru, approved by the Constitution. Okay, but Quechua have two words that always reverberates in my mind. One is yanantin. Yanantin means opposite but complementary. Male, female, men, women, sun, the moon is opposite completely, but at the same time is complementary. The other one is munai, which is no translation at all. It's a concept, munai or munai, M-U-N-A-Y, which means share your gifts. What are you gifted? If you share it to the society, it will change and elevate the level of consciousness and lifestyle of the human beings. We have that. It doesn't have to know Quechua to know about munai and share your gift. You don't have to understand that we are not divorced, we're complementary to each other. That's what we need, not you versus them versus others. We need a new us, un nuevo nosotros. We need a new us. This is what we need. And that shift comes from within, as Claudia said. And it has been written, all information, it's in the Native Americans, all information is in ancient records. You can add more modern touch here and there, and the essence is the same. The essence, if you make a shift, you have to contribute to where you live, even on the street, or even on the street in your neighborhood or in your family. But you are doing that change. And we all do munai and share our gifts, but we know with goodwill and good intention, it will reverberate, it will trigger a bigger change. So if we share that information of geopolymer or Andean super concrete, it can benefit, against climate change with new structures, buildings, roads, whatever, silos that we need for that. We have to go mostly organic. We're depending too much on fertilizer and pesticides, but organic is also, it takes more time, it's more work, but it's possible to do. Who better know about this? People that are working in a self-sustainable community or whatever, we need to do that. And we're going to do that, and no matter what, because that's the only choice we have in the near future, whether we like it or not, that we have to accept and be flexible. And for that, we need to love life. You don't love life, you don't love yourself. You don't love what you're planning. What are you doing here then? No, I would like to move and be rescued by the extraterrestrial. I hope the extraterrestrials, abduct me. That's you are escaping from reality. Nobody's gonna come for you. No extraterrestrial will move one finger to change our reality. They didn't do it before. They were not going to do that. So be careful when you listen all these stories, all this narrative, and all these workshops that tell you how to communicate with extraterrestrials when you don't know even to communicate with yourself. And you don't know the kind of psychological background of the person receiving those clues because, hey, this is the way I live. And I have to provide people what they want with a candy.
We are responsible for our reality. And any superior being of a superior intelligence is not going to meddle with our situation because we are responsible. And our maturity is going to be demonstrated by the way that we can handle our own problems. They're not going to resolve our problems for us. Because it's like a child, you don't solve their problems. You let the child find a way and to learn, to find their own way to learn.
Well, did you mention...
Otherwise, they would be taking our free will from us, and the free will is one of the greatest principles of consciousness. And I just wanted to add that this amazing conversation is a proof that if you share your gift, you can meet people from like the other side of the world, because now we're creating that type of unity. This group that we gathered here, that Ivan gathered here. Each of us sharing in our field in our aspects, in our expertise, in our interest. And we're creating something beautiful because we go beyond space and time, and by sharing our gift, we unite. That's what we need to do, I think.
Michelle, you mentioned, no, Michelle, sorry, Claudine, you mentioned...
Michelle or Claudine?
Yeah, I just lost. You mentioned a few minutes ago about vibration of the mantras. Do you have your favorite mantra you can share with us?
Well, there's so many mantras, right?
Yeah, but what is your favorite from all this so many? By the way, our friend...
let me tell you. And I can share this with you because many times people ask me, and like my students, what mantra shall I use? Right? And there's one that goes with the breath because it sounds just like the breath, which is when you inhale, sounds so, and when you exhale, sounds hum. So, hum. That's an ancient Sanskrit, not word, but it's a concept. What does it mean? I am that. I am that. That's the most intimate, the most powerful mantra there is, that we recognize our true essence and become one with that.
We haven't even gotten into controlling the elements. So let me share a really interesting story.
Yes.
You're talking about vibration and sound. I interviewed a Indian, and she didn't want to be disclosed. But she said that during one of their ceremonial spring dances that they do every year, she said there's a song that they sing in drum, and it brings down a beam of light from the sky, and they purposely do that. Now, we haven't even gotten to that aspect of it, of how we can control certain elements of consciousness when you gather together as a whole. So in this instance, gathering together with the whole tribe, using drum sounds, music, resonance.
Okay, the final words are always thank you. Thank you, and I always appreciate the opportunity not to talk, but to listen. And I thank you for your contribution, and hopefully we can get together some other time. And I know that we will, and we will continue expanding on this wonderful, wonderful experience. Thank you.
Michelle?
Oh, I've learned so much today. I'm really quite impressed with the people that have been here today, Claudine, Renata, and it. Library. Okay, well, I don't want to hear you. I have been just such wisdom that comes from different people from different cultures. Renata, I learned so much today from an archaeological point of view, that things can be. That we were just intelligent beings in the past, and as we are today, we don't have all the answers. And maybe our future selves are coming down and interacting with us, assisting us in moving forward with our own technologies, getting back to our own consciousness within, opening up our mind and expanding our awareness. So it's been a pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Ivan, for putting this together. And I hope we meet and have more to share during the conference in Bulgaria.
Yep. Renata?
Well, thank you everybody to being here. Really appreciate all of your time and the patience to listen to my old broken record, as I say. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Libomir, to be here and to share your ideas about, how law can be, new laws for a new society. It's very interesting because I study law and political science.
Ah,
Great.
Yes, in case. But I'm a frustrated archaeologist. But thank you so much, and I hope we can get together soon. Thanks again.
Thank you all. Thank you all for your time, for the knowledge, for the experience that I can't even describe in words, as we said. So I really hope that we get together again. I really appreciate you all. Thank you.